That felt good. A little afternoon baseball on a Friday. The New York Yankees, the New York Mets. It may be non-alcoholic beer. It may not count, but it's baseball. And we are 6 days away from opening day. And I just need to say thank you. Thank you. I'm a very appreciative man. I don't ask for much in life. But for the last few months, I've asked for something very, very simple, and I have been very consistent about it. I said Steve Cohen. I said man from Milwaukee, David Stearns. He's now just David Stearns, by the way. I said in the most eloquent way I could, get me a stick. When I met with David Stearns a few weeks ago, we had a private conversation. I now am at liberty to tell you what I said to David Stearns.
Give me what I want.
And what I wanted was a bat. And he said, Evan, I don't know. The price is pretty high. And I said, give me what I want. Give me what the people want. Give me what we need. And that is one stick.
Give me what I want.
And he gave it to me. And he gave it to us. J.D. Martinez was so obvious to all of us with half a brain. And they did it, and they got it done. And Tiki Barber, you see this smile on my face?
I can't. It's through all the paint and the beard dye that's orange and red and purple and whatever the other side of your face is that I can't see right now. Gold. It's all you're all over the place today. But I guess you can be because you're jazzed for exactly what you wanted. For a second there, I forgot that when you talked to David Stearns, you actually didn't do it like officially. You just had like an off-the-record conversation.
We had a nice get to know each other chat.
But I was expecting to hear his voice.
Oh.
For some reason. I was like, oh, wow. You kind of had a conversation with him about J.D. Martinez. And then I remembered, wait, you didn't even actually put it on tape. But like, obviously this makes sense if the price was right. And the price was right eventually for J.D. Martinez, despite him being somewhat gavonish with the money, trying to get more money from all these teams that were, I guess we can call it, bidding for him. But, I mean, the price is right because this really doesn't cost the Mets a ton.
Yeah.
The way that they structured this deal is kicking out and deferring it out to 2030 or so, where he'll be deferred payments, where he'll be living somewhere and it'll be tax-free for him. But it also helps because of the CBT. I mean, this is actually a perfect deal for all parties involved, especially if J.D. Martinez at 36, soon to be 37, performs like he should, presumably in the cleanup spot, but whatever he is, he just becomes the bat that the Mets have needed for a couple of years now.
Look, I think we all agreed, all of us, whether you're a Met fan or just an independent baseball observer, that they could use another bat. And this became a debate I hated having with you because the debate we had was I said, get me J.D. Martinez. Write the check, Steve Cohen. And if it's $12 million a year with the high tax the Mets have to pay, so be it. As a Met
Give
fan,
me what I want.
as a season ticket holder, give me what I want. I really don't care how much it costs you financially. You, on the other hand, and I respect it, as a businessman, said, but Evan, can you really give a 36-year-old DH, even if you're not paying him the $30 million, you're giving him 15, and it's costing you 30. And that could never stick with me because I don't care.
Yeah,
I have a billionaire owner. I don't care.
Right, but I cared because I'm not counting the billionaire's money.
I understand.
I'm not saying just write the check. It's nothing. That's nothing to you.
Well, but this is how we both got what we wanted. Like, ultimately, this is the win-win because the New York Mets waited and waited and waited, and it didn't cost them anything prohibitive financially. Their CBT on this is going to be reasonable. What they're paying him is reasonable. Kicking the can down the road with deferred payments makes this thing reasonable. And you know what? Good for Steve Cohen. I don't give a rat's ass, but good for Steve Cohen. What I cared about, what Met fans cared about was, hey, I want to balance the two things they've stated. Giving young players a chance, evaluating what you have, but also giving your team a chance. The Mets, and you'll see it, can do both. They're going to do both. And now they've added a 36-year-old, yes, who hit 30 home runs, who drove in 100 RBIs, who supplies Pete Alonso with something he has never had in his Met career, and that's legitimate protection. So you got what you want, as in you speaking for Stearns and Cohen,
right,
in that it doesn't cost you a great amount of money. I got what I want, and we got what we want as Met fans because they're clearly a better team. And so this is one of those things in life, and this doesn't always happen in sports, where there's no argument. This is a win for everybody. Here's the argument. And I don't know where you're going with this, but I'll tell you where I'm going with this. The question for my fellow Met fan, the question for the baseball fan is, what does this do to the New York Mets? How much better does this make the New York Mets? Do you still look at the New York Mets the way they've been described on this radio station for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks as a crappy team, as a bad team, as a lousy team? That's what I've heard from my fellow Met fans. That's what I've heard from the non-Met fans. I heard it doesn't matter. That's what I heard. I heard it doesn't matter. Yeah, JD makes you better. You still suck. I always thought the Mets were better than people realized. Obviously, I stand by that. Now, they're a little bit more better because they added a real bat. So the question I have, because everyone knows this is a no-brainer, I can't imagine anyone arguing against the Mets signing J.D. Martinez for this kind of contract. The question is, as we approach opening day 6 days away, does it change how you view this team?
It has to in some ways. It also makes you pine for consistency in what he did a year ago because it hasn't always been like this for J.D. Martinez. Mainly the number of games that he's been able to play. He had the back issue last year, right? Back stiffness or whatever.
He ended up having a few different IL stints. Still played 113 games, but yes, he missed time,
which is a good amount of time.
Yeah.
But to your point about I guess not. It's not really a. I guess it will be a platoon in some senses if they're going to give him days off. Will the substitute, and I'm assuming it's Mark Vientos, even though they're both righties, does that give him the ability to be healthy for the entire season, right? And if that's the case, then obviously this is fantastic for the lineup, right? It's fantastic for the Mets as far as getting hits, scoring, having protection for Pete Alonso, et cetera, et cetera. But I think ultimately, as we all kind of look at this Mets season, it's what the rotation's going to do that maybe is the question mark. And that's only because of health, right? What's Sevy's health like? What's Kodai's health like? Quintana, who's going to be the opening day starter, what's his health going to be like? Those are the questions that this doesn't really answer. Now, you can hope for health with the starting rotation, but from a lineup perspective, this makes so much sense, even though when he's midway through this season at 36 years old, you hope that age doesn't catch up. You hope that his back issues don't catch up. But if everything is health, assuming positive health, this is great for the Mets. There's no other way to look at it, especially because the money and me being what can I call this? Independent financial observer. I'll call it the IFO. Yes. The IFO is the Independent Financial Observer. That's for all sports. It even satisfies what my gripe was, or my you can't do this deal was. So this makes sense in all capacities.
The reason I had confidence about the New York Mets this season, and I still do, was the formula to their success was not having a dominant starting pitching rotation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would take a lot of crazy things for this rotation led by Luis Severino and Sean Manaea and Adrian Hauser and Jose Quintana and a returning Kodai Senga to be the strength. The formula I saw and I see is an offense that's more reminiscent of 2022 and a bullpen that's really, really good.
Yep.
You mentioned this lineup. This lineup last year had absolutely pathetic production out of the DH spot.
Right.
Daniel Vogelbach was the DH most of the time. He hit .233. He was an abomination. The bar for J.D. Martinez is not that high. He doesn't have to replicate the numbers of last year. If he does, that's great.
Right.
He doesn't. He needs to be a significant improvement over what we've seen from DH a year ago. And if that happens, then the Met lineup, just from that one spot, is significantly better. Now, a few other reasons why I thought the Mets would be better this year is I expect a better year out of Jeff McNeil, who was terrible a year ago. I expect a better year out of Starling Marte. I expect Francisco Alvarez in year 2 to make that jump. But this is the real jump because you're jumping from Vogelbach and Vientos struggled a lot when given the opportunity late last year to play. You're looking at a significant jump in production out of the DH spot.
Yeah, of course.
So their lineup is a lot better.
Yeah.
Now, the pitching, I get it. The pitching hasn't changed. It's not like they added Jordan Montgomery yesterday, and I don't expect that they will in the next 6 days. But they have taken a lineup that I was high on to begin with and have made it even better.
Yeah, well, it now makes this season feel like it's not. I know people still wanted to say, oh, they're punting. They're not punting. That's not. I don't think that's ever what David Stearns or Steve Cohen intended, despite that narrative persisting. It was, we're going to evaluate. We are going to try to win, but we really need to see where we are. We really need to get our priorities in order. We need these young players to be the stars that we expected them to be. And most importantly, we need health. And so this year now feels maybe a little bit different. It doesn't feel like we can win 90-something games. Right? This feels like maybe we can really win 90-plus games and not be an afterthought and not be a just sneak in to the postseason. Again, it all depends on health with the pitching staff. But other than that, I think it's hard to argue that this makes this Met team significantly better than what it was 2 days ago.
There's no doubt this makes this Met team better. The question is, how much better? And the question is, if you're a Met fan out there who last week thought they were a 75-win team, now you're telling me you think they're a 90-win team? That doesn't make freaking sense either. I love J.D. Martinez. I think it's a great addition.
Right.
But if your attitude went from they're a sub-500 75-win team to now all of a sudden we're taking the NL East, I'd like to know what you're smoking.
Right, but that's not where we were.
That's not. No. I've been positive about this team.
I know you have. And I don't say I was positive, but I was not sub 80. Right? It wasn't a sub 500 team to me. This was a 87, 88 win team, maybe. Now it feels like you can get into the 90s as long as you're healthy. The thing you worry about, this is also the same with the Yankees. Age scares the hell out of me. It really does, because you just never know. We talked about this the other day.
Yep.
Some days they're just off a cliff and it's done.
It's
the only thing that scares me.
When you sign a 36-year-old who'll be 37 in August, there are risks that are attached to it. But let me tell you something about life. Life has risks.
Right.
Life has a lot of risk. Let me tell you the other great part about signing J.D. Martinez that I think everybody knows, but you don't really, really know until you hear it out loud. Peter Jefferson Martinez Aloysius Alonso, my guy Pete. The reason I have this long beard, Pete Alonso has never in his Met career been offered any semblance of protection. If you look at the guys who have hit behind Pete Alonso since he was called up in 2019, I will read you the laundry list and you will get depressed. It features Daniel Vogelbach. It features Michael Conforto. It features J.D. Davis. It features Dominic Smith. You know who it featured more than anyone else 2 seasons ago? Eduardo Escobar. Now, some of these guys I mentioned, I'm not saying they're all crap.
Right.
But what I'm saying,
they had good moments.
Some of them had fine moments. You know what they are all not? Protection for Pete Alonso. You may as well be going bareback. You have no protection for Pete Alonso when those are the guys protecting him. And I believe, as much as some baseball people say protection doesn't exist, that's no such thing. I think you guys are full of crap. I think protection matters. I think having a legitimate slugger behind Pete Alonso matters. Now, let me tell you something else that sort of depressed me last night. I found out about this signing while I was showering. That's a true story. I was wiping my beard off, and I was taking a long, hot shower. And sometimes when I'm in the shower, I don't know if this is abnormal, I have my phone with me, and I check what's going on in the world. So I am on the Mets text chat, which does feature Tiki Barber, as I'm in the shower.
What?
That's right. Okay. I was writing you guys while I was buck naked.
How is that possible?
Because I put it in like this kind of side compartment.
Oh, got it.
So the water doesn't hit it.
And then you've just tap to talk?
Exactly.
Okay, I got it.
So I get a message while I'm showering. J.D. Martinez has an offer from the Mets and the Angels, but he doesn't like either offer.
Yeah, he's being money seeking. He's seeking more money.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I quickly respond, boy, I'm curious how much money he's asking for. Within 5 minutes of that, as the water is protruding down my beard and hair, I see the John Heyman tweet, Mets sign J.D. Martinez. And I am excited. I am ecstatic. I get the towel. I run out of the shower. I start drying myself off. And I run to see my wife. And I say, honey, I've got good news and I've got bad news. And she says, what's going on? I said, the bad news is I have to record a Rico Brogna. But
didn't even think of it.
But the good news is I have great Met news. And she responded the way that depressed me. Her response caused the biggest buzzkill, and I love you, baby, that I could have ever had. And she knows she caused the buzzkill. When I said I had great Met news, she didn't know what I meant. She thought I meant Pete Alonso extended with the team.
Oh, she was waiting for the beard to come
So
off.
she's like, I got the razor. I'm so happy. You won the battle. And I'm like, no, it's not.
We signed J.D. Martinez.
We signed a DH. He's 36, but
so
he's
really, she was. Now forget
good.
your buzzkill. It was her buzzkill. She expected the beard to come off
She
and
was-
the hair to get cut today or tomorrow.
Yes!
Right? She was expecting a cleaned up Evan Roberts. Instead, now we're on SNY. Right?
Hello, by the way. Hello,
This
SNY.
thing is epic today.
Yeah.
Epic.
My beard is all different colors. It's an orange mustache. It's
The
a
mustache is what's killing me, dude.
It's pretty bad. I got an orange mustache. I have gold on the side. I got purple on the side. Then I got red kind of on my chin. That came from Big Zoo, by the way. That was a Big Zoo call. So good job, Big Zoo. Thank you very much.
Hey, that's what I do.
So, yes, she had a buzzkill, but then so did I. Because I was like, how could I be this excited about this?
Just a DH.
When it was just really at the end of the day, yes, I wanted it. Yes, I've been calling it for it on the radio for 2 months. Yes, I demanded it from David Stearns in our little private meeting. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the jugular. So my wife kind of caused a buzzkill on this whole thing. Like, it's good, but is it that good?
Thanks, Miss Roberts.
Thank you. So
Mrs. Roberts.
Mrs. So I had to reevaluate my own excitement. Like, yeah, as excited as I am, I mean, what is it? It's a bat, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what it is? It's just what you wanted.
It's what I wanted.
It's not, even if it doesn't ultimately, I don't know, lead to anything. Even if he isn't the protection that Pete Alonso needed because he has a down season or whatever it is. It's just you did something.
Yes.
And so to you, it feels right. Whether or not it ultimately is right, we'll find out.
Look,
starting in
ultimately-
the minors, it's going to be, I don't know how long he needs. We were talking about that in the Mets chat, or they were at least. Like, what are you doing in the offseason?
Yeah, he should be-
Should you not be swinging? Go to the batting
He
cage?
should be there Thursday at Citi Field. The fact he's got to go to I mean, JD, what are we doing here, buddy?
You're 36 years old, dude.
Dude, you're ready.
You've been doing this for 15 years, man. Come on.
You're a freaking DH. All right, well, just go show up.
Right.
And you don't have to do much.
Suck in the majors and maybe get lucky every now and then.
I do think you hit on something. As fans, look, we're not the general manager of the team, but we all are passionate about our teams. And going into every offseason, whether it's the Giants, more on them later, it seems like they don't like J.J. McCarthy. We'll get to that in a little bit. Whether you're a Jet fan, whether you're a Met fan, whether you're a Yankee fan, you all have what you want. And sometimes you're insistent on what you want. And you're waiting on what you want. And there's a specific player that you want. And usually during off seasons, it's a week or two, and then it happens. Look at the NFL. If you had to request an NFL free agency, you scream about it for a week or two, and then you get your answer. In baseball, since really late January, I have been screaming they need a stick. They need a bat. To the point where I wasn't even, I didn't even care who it was. It turned out to be J.D. Martinez, and it turned out to be obvious, but for a while it was just get me a professional, and I didn't care. And so for 2.5 months as a Met fan, I've been screaming for this one thing, this thing that to me makes the team better, makes them a little bit better, makes their lineup better. And when you scream about it and you're passionate about it, and it doesn't happen, you start to think it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And a week before opening day to get the news that it's happening, I think satisfies me and other Met fans as, hey, maybe they were listening to us. Maybe our screaming and yelling, whether it's on social media, whether it's on WFAN, maybe it's in my private get-together with Mr. Stearns himself, that it actually led to them saying, you know what, you're right. We were right, Met fans.
Or they were just sitting and looking at a guy who was about to start the season doing nothing, doing absolutely nothing, and said, you know what, let's get creative. Let's find a way to make this make financial sense.
Yes, that is the real answer.
First, are you willing to take a deferred salary? Because if the answer is no, there's no way we're paying you $28 to $30 million based on our CBT obligations. There's no chance. And he said, all right, cool. I'll go move to Texas or wherever the heck I'm going to retire with no state income tax, and I'll defer it for 5 years or 6 years after my career is done. It'll be good income money for me.
Yes.
Right? And get good income for me, and I don't have to do anything. So the only reason it worked is because it was an opportunistic signing by the Mets because it financially made sense.
No, Tiki is actually...
If he was making $15 million a year and his thing was crushing the Steve Cohen tax even more for the Mets, this would not have happened.
I think he's 1,000% right. Everything I just said is a load of crap as a fan. That I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe we did something. We had nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
It was strictly Steve Cohen may be this billionaire, and we all may look at him as Mr. Moneybags. Even Steve Cohen has his limits. Mm-hmm. And to Steve Cohen, giving J.D. Martinez $40 million after a tax was never going to happen. As much as I wanted it to happen, giving him $30 million after tax was never going to happen. Again, as much as I wanted it to happen, it needed to work financially. And 1 week before opening day, Scotty Boras got down on his hands and knees like he has for Matt Chapman and Blake Snell and said, please, I'll take 1 year, $4.5 million.
I'll get no commission out of this, but please, I can't let this affect my relationship with Juan Soto or Pete Alonso or anybody else that has a big deal coming up next year. All right, give me your lineup right now, Ev.
Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso 3, J.D. Martinez 4, Francisco Alvarez 5, Jeff McNeil 6, Starling Marte 7, Brett Beatty 8, Harrison Bader 9.
Like it.
Not too shabby.
That works.
Let's get to your calls. Met fans, has this changed your view of this team? Are you now looking at completely different expectations, slightly improved expectations, or are you actually one of those people that's like, it doesn't make a difference. We're going to suck anyway. Let's kick it off with Ryan in Wanacue. What's up, Ryan?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. A good day for the Metsies for quite a few different reasons that you touched on, but also one that hasn't been addressed yet on either one of the shows today.
Go ahead.
Is even if the Mets stink, let's say they're not doing well, the starting pitching turns out to be what we may think they start out turning to be.
Compromised in some way.
You now have a movable deadline piece that is not only attractive in salary to a couple of teams, you are now making him available to probably a dozen teams who might be in contention that have better minor league systems. They might be attractive to the Rays and teams that don't like to spend money.
It is a great, great point. It's just such a depressing point. But it's a great point. Like, Ryan, you're not wrong. It's just like, really? Do we want, and I appreciate your phone call. I appreciate that you did it. Because the one thing I don't want to do, whether it's on WFAN or it's on the Rico Bronya itself, is say, hey, guys, great signing. We can trade him in July for prospects. Now, Ryan is right. If I'm wrong, and I've been wrong many times before, and the Mets suck this season, everything I'm confident about doesn't work. The pitching's a disaster. The team's a disaster. And yet J.D. Martinez is having a good season. Ryan is spot on. But really, a week before opening day, the Mets make a good signing. Hey, we can trade them.
That's like a month-end conversation. That's a little bit. Kick that one down the line a little bit.
I know.
Save it because it's a good thought, and you can say you said it first.
I appreciate that Ryan called to say it, though. I'll tell you why. I don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. But our audience is aware of it. If you didn't think of it that way, now you know.
You also just don't want to think about it. You don't want to think about, we suck this year. Let's just move some pieces and get some prospects. You don't want to think that.
Not in baseball season.
Pitch one has been thrown in the regular season.
As depressed as I've been going into baseball seasons, and I've had years in which I don't have enthusiasm in terms of that the team will be successful, I always go into opening day with hope. I always go into opening day with, maybe I'm wrong. You never know. Maybe Dylan G is going to be this incredible arm in a rotation. You know, maybe Gary Matthews Jr. is going to be awesome this year. You know what I mean? I never want to think before the start of the year, I could trade that guy at the deadline. But I do appreciate Ryan bringing it up. Matt's on Long Island. Good afternoon, Matt.
What up, Matt?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. So, Evan, honestly couldn't be as excited as a Met fan when we landed J.D. Martinez. That said, the longer it's marinated, the more and more I'm starting to think they're officially cutting ties with Vientos. And if you're that quick to cut ties with Vientos, how much leash does Beatty really have? And that's my biggest concern and takeaway from all this is they're not giving these guys their fair shot.
I'm not following you. So why do you think that they're done with Vientos?
Well, so Vientos doesn't have a glove. His only way to play is DH.
Yes.
And if you're paying JD and he's this guy that you're expecting to be, Pete Alonso's insurance, you're not taking him out of the line.
So my response to that, Matt, I want to make
Yeah.
this clear. I don't know what the Mets are going to do. I tweeted this out earlier. To me, they have one roster spot up for grabs. It's between Mark Vientos and DJ Stewart, which means there is a chance Mark Vientos will go to AAA. And you may be right. Even if he tears it up at AAA, there may not be an opportunity for him at the major league level. I disagree with that. That's not what I would do. If I'm the New York Mets, and I've been damn consistent about this when I would argue with Tiki and others about, well, you've got to give the young guys a chance. I would have Mark Vientos on this major league roster. He would play third base consistently against left-handed pitching. Brett Beatty would face right-handed pitching. And by the way, let's see how each guy does.
Yeah.
That may take care of itself. Maybe Brett Beatty, who's hit a little bit more at AAA, had a rough inning against the Yankees today. If you were listening to the game, Emmanuel did an outstanding job, as did Susan Wallman. Brett Beatty had an inning in which he screwed up a rundown and then didn't make a backhand play on a ground ball that was ruled a double. So, yeah, I'm the idiot watching these spring training games and listening to it. And look, Brett Beatty was a little rough at third base. I would have both guys in the mix at third. Then, as Tiki brought up, JD may have an IL stint.
Yep.
He may need a day. There are at-bats for both guys. And if the Mets send Vientos down, which they may do, I will say it here, I will say it on the Rico. It's a mistake. DJ Stewart should be sent down. Mark Vientos deserves that opportunity. I'm not burying him the way everyone else is. I just think you can give him that opportunity, Teak, while also having J.D. Martinez as your primary DH.
You're almost, especially because this is a season where they're truly evaluating. Now, if they happen to win, get in the postseason, and something happens, or come to deadline, you start making moves because it feels like you're way ahead of your schedule, whatever you think the evaluation was going, you're way ahead of it. That's a different story. But this is an evaluation year for the Mets. Now, they can win, obviously, during an evaluation year, but that's primarily what it feels like. So it makes no sense to have this prospect in Vientos who, just because you signed J.D. Martinez, and I emphasize for a pittance of what he was asking relative to the CBT, he's still going to get his $12 million. It is what it is. But it's not affecting you. It's not affecting what you're trying to do. It doesn't make sense to send Vientos away or trade him or put him in the minors and say, you know what, kid, we want you to play every day. Because I think the platoon at third gives him an opportunity to see a lot of at-bats. And then if he also gives J.D. Martinez breaks,
he's going to play.
So he'd have to play 150 games, which he hasn't done really effectively for a couple of years. It gives him a chance to grow in multiple ways and find his place, as opposed to, we are a ready-made team. You don't fit the bill. Get out of here, kid. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I hope the Mets don't do it. I am saying it again. Mark Vientos should be on the Major League roster. If you really want to even get into the weeds on it, roster-wise, I think DJ Stewart makes less sense than Vientos. McNeil could play the outfield. Whatever. My point is this, and it remains the same as I made a month ago, 2 months ago. It's the same point I made to the man himself. You can allow young players to play and evaluate them while also trying to win with a player like J.D. Martinez. And I think Carlos Mendoza is smart enough to figure it out, where you can still give Vientos and Beatty that opportunity while simultaneously trying to win with J.D. Martinez in the lineup. Let's go to Anthony in Queens. How you doing, Anthony?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's happening?
Look, I'm a New York fan, like a depressed fan, right? So I'm a Mets, a Jets, a Nets. Totally, never had happiness, right?
Yes, I feel you.
All right, but look, so last season, I really care about the Mets the most. And, Uncle Steve came in, and I was like, he's a fan, he's got money, he's gonna make this different. And I feel like he tanked last season, like he pulled out way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
He sold the whole team, and then, we got some prospects back, but, I mean, come on, there's always going to be people in the pipelines. I don't know.
I got to tell you, Anthony, it was tough at the time. It was very difficult giving up, and you never know. In this world of baseball, if they didn't give up, who knows? Maybe they would have gotten hot enough, sneak into the playoffs, and go on a run.
Yeah.
But the fact they were able to turn in two fossils, and Max Scherzer is a fossil. He's not only a fossil, he choked in every big spot when he was here, and choked in Texas, too, by the way. Congrats on the World Series ring. You had basically nothing to do with it. The fact they were able to turn in the two fossils into three legitimate prospects, and we'll see what they turn into. Ryan Clifford, Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, we don't know. I disagree with you. It was tough at the time. I sat here next to Tiki when they dealt Verlander. I was very upset in that moment. But now with a clear head, it was the right thing to do. It was a ship that was sinking, and they decided to go in the younger route.
It felt like the right time to fold your hand. It was the right time to just get out of it. And ultimately, it proved to be correct. Because you talk about Scherzer not participating, basically, in the postseason. And then Verlander, the same thing that happened last year is happening again this year. So, to me, it was the right move because the plan that they had, and we talked about it a lot last year, both when I was with BT, but then also once we moved over here, they had a philosophy. You could feel it. Like, get these old guys, these experienced players. We can win a championship. Everything's got to break right. But we have a window, and it's tiny, like it's really tiny to win a championship, but everything's got to go right. And then things started to go wrong before the season even started.
Yeah.
Right? And then once it really got out of hand, you just had to let it go. I know it was like a dream.
It was tough.
It was like a dream that this little hole we could squeeze through and get a championship viable. But you could tell midway through the season it was not there.
Even now,
to me, it wasn't even a question.
Even now, because one of the things I said to you last year when they traded Verlander was, how do you replace him? What is this rotation next year if you're giving up on both Scherzer and Verlander? Well, here we sit a year later in which we now feel pretty good about this lineup, but there are questions about the rotation. And despite Verlander missing the start of the season, he's going to be ready, I think, a few weeks into the season. So it doesn't look like an extended injury. Would the Mets have been better off not making that trade? Ryan Clifford and Drew Gilbert aren't even here. Justin Verlander at the top of the rotation. How would you feel about the Mets if everything was the same and Verlander was at the top of the rotation? And as painful as this is to say, because I want to win so badly, even though in the short term for 2024, that would make the Mets better, imagining this exact same roster with Verlander in the mix, it ain't worth it. They added 2 legitimate top 100 prospects that maybe makes a difference down the road. While Verlander, it'd be 1 year left with him. And who the hell knows at this age? So it was a tough decision. I think it was the right decision. To my fellow Met fans, I heard for weeks and months, whether it was on social media or it was down the street or was calling this radio station, that the Mets suck, that I was naive for thinking the Mets are going to be good in 2024. Has this one move really changed your view on this entire season? Toll-free numbers 877-337-6666. We'll also get to a new injury concern around the Yankees and movie news that even if the Mets didn't sign J.D. Martinez, would have changed my whole complexion on the day. If you are my age, What Have I Told You, one of the great movies of all time, is getting a sequel. We'll get to it coming up live.